We could at least talk about something that'll lift your spirits. A little game you reviewed
A little game,
called
little Xbox game.
South of Midnight. Jordan, you reviewed South of Midnight. You gave it what? Tell me what you gave it.
Gave an 8 out of 10, which is a great on GameSpot's review scale.
Uh, Tell me what it is. Why did you give it an 8 out of 10? Well, let's start with okay, before we get into the why, give me the brief, give me what you, try and do verbatim your opening intro paragraph of your review.
Did you say verbatim?
Yes.
Sure, sure, sure. The opening.
Don't scroll. I've seen your glasses. I see the reflection of your
No,
glasses that you're
don't worry
scrolling on.
about it.
Just tell me what's South of Midnight. Tell me what South of Midnight is.
South of Midnight, I feel, is Compulsion Games finally getting a win. It's an incredible love letter to the American Deep South. Uh, Very well researched, very well voice acted. Really love seeing aspects of my culture from my dad's side of the family represented in a video game. You don't really get to see that all that often. Um, Combat is okay. It's good. It's decent. In my review, I think I make it sound way worse than it actually is. It's passable. It's clear that the game's focus is more on the story and world building and lore, and the gameplay is kind of there as just a medium to like move the player from one story beat to the next.
Compulsion's a cool. I like Compulsion as a studio. I don't feel like they've done in the few games that they've done. There is a sense of experimentation and artistry to what they do. There's a lot of style and character in the games that they've made. I am one of the few people who actually like We Happy Few. However, disclaimer, I played that game like years after it came out. So
Okay,
when I
yeah.
went
If you
back
played
and,
We Happy Few like 2 or 3 years after the game came out, it's pretty good. Like the
yeah,
expansions made it a much better game.
like I when I played it and I like looked back at the reviews, I was like, what the fuck? What were all these people complaining about? I was like, oh, it was busted different game from
Yeah.
what I understand. So when I saw South of Midnight, before I even saw the combat, I was like, this looks sick. This looks up my alley. But admittedly, the moment I saw the combat, I was, a little checked out. So kind of just I don't know, it just looked like combat in a game, and I didn't know what purpose it was entirely trying to serve. But I was wondering if you could help me out with that. Obviously, you said it was combat's fine, but like tell me how those things. It's a folklore game with some combat. How do those two things marry together in this thing?
Yeah, so combat is explained in the game as like, oh, all the negative emotions like fear, anger, sadness that are kind of like permeating with people. Sometimes that gets all tangled and knotted up. And they kind of evolve into these near sentient, monstrous creatures called haints. Um, and they guard these locations of negative emotions. And so Hazel's basically going in and fighting these haint creatures. There's a lot of different types. That's one of the good things about the combat is that South of Midnight has some good enemy variety, especially in the latter half of the game. And as she's defeating these enemies and clearing away the dark energy that's kind of infecting this part of the world, uh, she gets to see the memories that they're kind of guarding, these negative emotions, these traumas from the people and animals that once lived there, and slowly begin to uncover the truth of what's been going on. It's very video gamey. It's very much like you need some enemies to fight, and here's a very loose reason for you to fight some enemies. Um, Again, it's not my favorite part of the game, but
Well, tell us. So I
it's
mean, but
okay.
like, talk to me because like you said in your review that the combat feels more in place as the game goes on. Tell me how how that feels. Is it just like an odd bedfellow in the opening game where you're like being introduced in this world and you're just forced to fight shit, and then as the game continues, those things have higher stakes?
Yeah, I mean, you basically hit it right on the head. I don't want to say like, oh, there aren't any stakes in the beginning of the game. Like Hazel's mom, like the character you're playing as, her mom has been swept away in a hurricane and she's trying to get her back. But the pacing and tone of the early story is very relaxing, feels like too strong of a word, but very much like, oh, we're learning these stories, we're moving forward. Like her mom's going to be okay. We just have to reach her. And then at the same time, you get thrust into these like life or death situations where these enemies are taking off huge chunks of Hazel's health, and she's doing almost nothing because her abilities in the beginning of the game are very weak, and she only really has one offensive option. So there's just this weird tonal shift where the story isn't super high intense, but the combat is really freaking intense. And it's just a really bad disconnect, a weird bounce back and forth. As you get closer to the ending of the game, the stakes rise in the story. Hazel learns about more of like kind of what's been going on in her corner of the world and what it means to be a weaver. And then there's less of that tonal shift between the story that's happening around and the actual combat. So it kind of meshes a little bit better, if that makes sense.
Sure. The combat seems zippy. It looks
Zippy?
zippy. Is that true?
I'm not quite sure what that means.
Just interpret it. When I say zippy, what do you think? Like, I mean, does it? I mean, is it zippy? You're zipping around, right? It looks like you're kind of like zipping onto buildings.
I mean, Hazel's pretty fast. Yeah,
She's zippy.
she's a track star, so that's how they explain it. She's able to do all the really cool acrobatic, athletic stuff
Okay.
in the game.
I mean, but like, if you were to play, but combat on its own, outside. I mean, of course, all these things are supposed to be married together to create something that is universal. But on its own, I mean, what is the combat
when I
still
roll the
good?
board.
It just doesn't make sense in the terms of the game early on.
The story does a lot of the heavy lifting in the first part of the game, and I think the platforming and combat get better in the latter half. But the entire star of the show is definitely the music, the story, the voice acting, like the narrative elements are why you want to play this game.
Get into that, because you had mentioned earlier that like you don't get to see you haven't really seen this sort of representation or this sort of storytelling of this certain sector in games yet, and you mentioned like closer to your dad in that way. Talk to me about it, because we haven't actually kind of got to see this sort of world in a game, and I think that's why when I initially saw the trailer, I was like, "This looks sick," and then I saw the zippy gameplay, and I was like, "I don't know if I care anymore." So I want you to try and convince me.
You should care, Kurt. The
I
story's
do
so good.
care. It just
But yeah, no, like when I was writing this review, I was like, okay, how many games have been set in the American Deep South? I should at least like reference like one or two of them. And the only ones that really came to mind was Resident Evil 7 and Narco. And I was like, I'm sure there's more, but off the top of my head, that's really the only ones.
And Resident Evil 7 really encapsulates the culture of that area. You know?
100%. Yeah, it's just like heading on down to Louisiana.
Yeah, I know when I went to New Orleans all years ago, I also got trapped in a house and was force-fed guts. I was at one point too. So, no, I'm not going there. But there's only like a handful of games you can count on one hand that actually like have attempted to try and be in this area.
Yeah, and this game does a really good job of it. It showcases like the really cool and good parts of the game, like the various rural landscapes, what it's like when that sun just kind of comes over the top of the trees in the bayou. Like it's a very pretty game, and the way people are talking to each other, like there's this sense of community and love between a lot of the characters. And at the same time, the game doesn't shy away from the very negative aspects of the region. Like one of the first things that Hazel goes to is an abandoned slave town. And then there's aspects of prohibition in the game, just the disparity between the upper class and lower class. This game is a very big eat the rich message. and then it imbues all these myths and legends that like I know and like I've heard from my grandma and my grandpa because they're from Louisiana. Like my dad's from Louisiana, all his brothers and sisters are from. So I grew up like eating grits and catfish and crawfish and gumbo and hearing stories about like Two-Toed Tom and like Shaking Bones and Huggin' Molly and things like that, and not being able to really talk about those things with other people. And those things are here in the game, and they've taken some creative liberty with some of them. A few, I was like, that's not the story that I've heard,
That's
but
not the story grandmother
it is
used to tell
technically
me.
close enough.
Grandmother wasn't a track star zipping around with two-toed toad with the you know what I'm talking about.
Two-Toed Tom. He's a
Two-toed
giant freak.
Tom. Honestly, you
I'm
talking about those characters have been the most compelling. Again, I'm like right back to where I started when I first saw the trailer. Where I was like, I want to see this. I want to be in this world. I want to talk to these folk. If I had a skip button, not that I don't mind combat, it just I don't know. Just it has to feel cohesive.
Yeah, I understand. I understand.
Tell me about
I
the
was about to say,
music though.
the music, the Deep American South has such a good lyric oral tradition. Like so much songs have to be like very, very vocal, very choral, very sitting around a campfire or sitting in a church singing them together. Music is gospel, and this game recognizes that and has a few levels where it's like, oh, Hazel's about to confront the major spirit that kind of embodies this area, of which there are four, five. Don't quote me on this. I'm talking off the cuff. Uh, but like in those levels, like the music kind of builds where it like sometimes it's like a few lyrics, sometimes it's a few notes of a few instruments, and then more instruments get added, more lyrics get added, and the song just kind of builds, slowly drowning out the sounds of the bayou or the town or the pig farm or wherever Hazel happens to be. Until finally, that music, that song is the only thing that you can really hear. And that's usually when Hazel's fighting the boss. And the songs are so good. They're not like, oh, these songs I think are going to wow music critics around the world, but they're like
But they
really
feel
catchy and I
interwoven.
love them.
Yeah.
Like they're just so good.
So you're saying that the final boss fight is that song that's like "Born on a Bayou," that one by Clear Brown Water.
That very specific song, yes, that's exactly
Yeah,
what plays
yeah.
during the
Bay
final
Area
boss
band.
fight.
Yeah.
Creedence Clearwater.
You know, it's I call them Credence Brownwater, but they're from SF, so I don't know what the hell they're doing making a "Born on a Bayou" song. Well, it's a real missed opportunity for them to really encapsulate Louisiana culture with a San Francisco band. How did they miss that chance? I'm joking. I don't like that band. Going on record, baby. As we were talking, there was another game that I remember that takes place in that area, and I'm not going to suggest you play it because I reviewed it. It was the first
What?
review I did for GameSpot. It was Deadly Premonition 2. That's an open world game in New Orleans, Louisiana. If you could get past the frame rate, you might be able to see something you recognize. But that's it. You gave it an 8 out of 10. And to
did.
me, it sounds like a really compelling game purely and solely for its lore and characters and music and all that jazz. Maybe
Yeah.
I'll even endure the zippy zap, skibbity bop, shoo up bop combat. I got
Just
one
add
more.
an adjectives.
I got one more question for you though.
Oh, good. What is it? What is it? I'm
Wait,
worried.
no, hold on, Jake.
You got that smirk. You got that smirk going. I don't know what's about to happen.
What is South of Midnight?
What?
6 a.m.
6 a.m.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. All right,
This camera, Max.
now for the next one. Now that means since you reviewed it, you get to put this in the power ranking board. Thank you, my beautiful person, Jake, who brought this in. Can you see the board?
Yes, I can see the board. Yeah, Adam Fall split fiction.
Adam Falls.
What's changed since?
Oh, Adam Falls at the very top.
Berserker Kazan is over Assassin's Creed Shadows now.
Oh yeah. So first Berserker Shaka Khan is above Assassin's Creed Shadows, which you put above Cabernet for some reason. And now we have Adamfall above Split Fiction at the very top. So for those of the viewers who are just seeing this, quick thing, this is our nonsensical board of being cool. And these games cannot move. Only games can go above and below them. So Jordan Ramee, 8 out of 10, South of Midnight. Where does it go? Does it go above Assassin's Creed Shadows? Above first Berserker Kazan? Kingdom Come Deliverance 2? Or all the way down below Sniper Elite Resistance?
Definitely not. I feel like this is going to be something that a lot of people are down the line are going to look at this and be like, why the hell did Jordan do this? But I'm a narrative slut. I'm a whore for story. So if a game has a really good story, but the gameplay isn't super hot, I will like it more than a game where the gameplay is really good. But the story maybe doesn't quite
Spit it out. Come on.
reach it. I'm going to put it above Assassin's Creed. I have no knowledge of the first Berserker, and I have no idea if South of Midnight's any better.
Bam! Well, that's it. This board continues to grow, and Jordan continues to review games, and now
I
has
do.
2 8 out of 10s and a 9 out of 10.
Yeah.
Did you review anything else? Doesn't matter. We'll figure out
Eternal
next time.
Strands.
All right, everybody. Jordan, thank you so much for being here. Jordan, yeah, get
Always
this out of
a
here. You
pleasure.
sons
Always
of
a
beasts.
pleasure.